Alright everybody, this video is about how to install a window unit on top of a roof. And before I get too fully involved in this video, I had some questions on another video about how to wire a thermostat, and they were asking about which wire is hot. Now, one of your really good tools is this multimeter. You'd set it on AC, sorry, over here. And what you can do, if you have a really good AC and you want to get as low profile as you can check these probes. And I found this probe, super sunny, this one that's exposed, that one was the one that turns the AC compressor on and off. Now, another thing you can do right here, now this usually comes on in 3 minutes if it's a good AC. And you see I've isolated this and put some electrical tape around that, and this is just something I had lying around. You could also wire nut this together. This is going to the thermostat. If you're not sure how to wire a thermostat, you could look at my other video about refrigeration and it'll show you that. But you see this brown wire comes over to this compressor. Now we've got our capacitor right here, and that can be kind of confusing because most of the time these capacitors feed both the compressor and the fan, and the fan's over here. So but we got these bundles of wire, and you see this bundle of wires going to the fan over here, and this bundle of wires going to the compressor. But what I did was take my multimeter and I checked these, and there's not too many to really check. This group right here, you see this bundle underneath, it actually goes to your fan, so you're going to have your low, medium, and highs, and so all those are going to be independently controlled. And so I had imagined that's what this is right here. Sorry, a lot of sunshine, Florida. So I kind of ignored this group and I was checking these wires. Now, this other one, this is your power in, and so this switch, and I would imagine it to be a relay switch, but this switch down here, again, it's connected to the one that's got an empty spade, controls that compressor right there. So what we did was unhooked it at its source, and we're controlling the compressor ourselves. So this was the source, this hooked directly up to there, and that was that. So not terribly difficult. Again, multimeter, the compressor should kick on in 3 minutes, so you can test everything before and you can test after. There's not really a whole lot that you can test though, but you can see that relay down there that we were discussing, and it's kind of Bob's your uncle because you have that cluster for the fan control, and we don't want to mess with any of that. Alright, so how did I do this? Well, number one, you're gonna have to measure it like 5 times. Number one, you'll flip it upside down, and you're gonna measure for this blower down here. And what you want, number one, you got to start out with a rooftop unit. You see, you got the top there and the base. And the biggest reason why you need that is because underneath it has a rectangular platform, and all sides curve up, you know, so that's curving up from all 4 sides like that. So you got your 4 sides that curve up, and that keeps the water, say if it rains and whatnot, that keeps the water from just pouring into your unit. This also comes with a gasket, and that squeezes really tight, and that keeps the water from seeping, seeping in underneath. And there's a lot of surface area on these vans. If it's coming down hard, you don't want all that water. So the number one thing is you have to have one of these tops. Now, I did originally have this 13,500 BTU unit, and it died in just a year's time. It died in just a year's time. Very unhappy. I've got a lot of window units, particularly even on the ACs being used for refrigeration, that have lasted for, actually I've never had one go bad, in 3.5, 4 years. I've never had one of these go bad. So it's not the fact that I cooled it down so cold that made these go bad. Alright, so number two, this is part of the unit, and I actually had to modify, alright, for this thing to fit. Step number one is you're going to take the case off of your window unit. So this is all one window unit, and you're going to flip it upside down, and you're going to measure front to back, back to front, side to side, and you're going to have to cut this hole. And you can't see it here, but you see the blowers right here. And instead of blowing out, instead of blowing out like a regular window AC, we have taped. Sorry, camera got too hot. Alright, so you're going to tape this shut, and I've got a piece of insulation here, and I've got the metal tape. That metal tape works really good in the cold applications. And when you have this flipped upside down, you're going to cut the square just a little bit bigger than what you measure on this. And this is where it's really critical. There's not really a lot in the way, but on your own personal unit, you're going to double check that you don't have any copper lines, no electrical lines. Safety is first. So measure it again, measure it again, back to front, side to side, and you're going to cut a square hole in the bottom of this, and it's going to match up with the raised edges. Alright, you got 4 raised edges, a rectangular, and that is to allow for the blower to blow down. So basically, this is going to mirror underneath. You're cutting, and it's going to slide over the water tray. It keeps the water out, it keeps the water from sliding down, so you get some water in this AC on this back side. It's raised up to keep any water from infiltrating your unit. You might also want to drill you 1 or 2 drain holes in the bottom of this when you have it open. I haven't experienced any problems, but the possibility is there. So I formed these sides. I've taped it on the inside, I taped it on the outside, and so this is to keep any of the cold air from escaping. So you're going to tape this closed so that it blows straight down. Whatever pieces of foam board you got to use, lay it across there. Alright, so then you're going to cut into this to fit your AC. Again, measure it several times. You don't want too much excess. This should, once you turn it on, stay on, so that if you have a power loss, it's just going to keep on continuing, and then the thermostat will make your compressor run. I haven't seen any ACs that don't stay on. It's just a feature that if your power flickers, your AC is on when you get home. So you're going to tape everything down inside and out. I didn't tape my display. You see I got a nice tight fit here, but you're going to tape everything down on the outside, on the inside, And I would put one or two screws in here. It's going to be very secured, but you know, maybe one in each corner, and that's just to make sure it doesn't slide around. It shouldn't, but you know, again, safety. So you got this all bolted down up top, you've sealed the edges, you've cut out the foam, you've blocked the front so that it ducts down to the bottom, and you've cut the bottom so that it blows downward. Let me show you the inside. So I've been meaning to get this up. I've actually spray foamed and then foamed the inside of this, and I put a vinyl flooring down. This is the inside. Actually, when I got this, it was just strictly a metal panel van. The walls in the front have got 4 inches of insulation, and I built the whole thing myself. So let me show you what this is going to look like from underneath. This screen does trap some of the bigger particles, but because you're all locked up, you know, you don't want any particles. Let's see where I ripped that tape, making sure I got the correct wire for the thermostat. I'll fix that. But yeah, you want to bring your thermostat wire up, and it's just going to be a hot wire that goes up to that control board. This is what it's going to look like, and this is going to spin this direction. It'll blow down. If you want to, you can bring something up here, but it doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's blocked on the left and on the right. But if you want it to flow a little better, you know, you can throw a couple of pieces of insulation board up in here and tape it. And see, there's that foam I was telling you about. There's some screws that when you tighten it down, it squishes this foam. This is the intake. So you've got your front fins. Might not be able to see that. Okay, let's pull it back. This is my excess wire. I could have gotten rid of it, but I kind of like to have the extra. This is actually part of the original wire, and at one time I did have a plug-in system, but that's basically it. It's not really hard. Here's that rounded lip I was telling you about, and this is exactly, well, I tucked some foam in there. This is exactly what I was talking about. You're gonna have to cut, because you want the bottom of this to go on the outside of this, so just cut enough. You might have to cut it a couple times, and don't worry about the compressor oil, because by the time you're done hooking all this together, you're going to still have to wire it, still have to tape it, still have to secure it, and then you have to put the cover back on the top. But you might just leave that alone until you know 100% sure that you have all the connections. But that compressor oil is going to have plenty of time to get settled. Alright, so if you don't know how to wire this up, see my first video. It's not actually a labeled one, but it talks about how to wire a thermostat to a compressor. This is just how to do a window unit in on the rooftop. Alright, so the main thing is just cutting that bottom out. Let's go over the steps real quick. Number one, you got to flip it upside down and cut that bottom out. Fit it, double check it, measure it several times before you cut it. Measure it again and again. Alright, number two, you're going to find that thermostat wire, disconnect it from the original panel, and hook it up to this. Where are you? There you are. Hook it up to this thermostat so that this controls your compressor instead of the one on the roof. Of course, you're going to have to plug this in or wire nut it your AC directly to some type of power, and tape everything up. You're going to block that front and tape everything. Use insulative panel, 3/4 should work fine. That's all that's really on these ACs anyway, so just use some 3/4 inch foam panel. You don't want the styrofoam. You're going to want to use that pink stuff. It's going to hold up a little bit better when you cut it. It's not going to fray. Use the metal tape that you get with the ACs. If you're doing heat and air, it's just thin. I don't know if it's stainless. I believe it's stainless steel tape. It's real thin. It's a little bit difficult to work with, but it lasts a lot longer. Alright, so fit it, screw it down, thermostat it, block the front, insulate it, tape everything up. Of course, test it anywhere you need to along the way to make sure you got it hooked up right, and then you're going to install the cover. Your cover might not fit, so in that case you're going to use some zip ties. You're going to have to use some solar rated zip ties, UV rated. I particularly like the ones with the holes in them for screws, so you can zip tie it to the screw, then you just undo the screw and you can lift the cover off if you need to get in there and do any work. Haven't touched this thing in over a year. Sorry, built it without showing y'all, but I've been using it without any issue. I get it down to 45 in here, as long as it's not too hot outside. But if I keep it in the shade, I really don't want it below 45 because some things get damaged if they're too cold. But I've done some videos about this and making of this, and it's not really hard, but sorry I haven't posted them. It's been tremendously busy here, but yep, did this all myself on the cheap. I'll show you how soon. Alright, that, or we'll do the Volkswagen hitch, how to build your own capacitive battery charger, all kinds of things in the oven. But hope you like this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Sorry if I seem rushed. It's 95 degrees outside and not much of a breeze, but y'all take care, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. One more thing, if your AC is too tall, see there's the hole down there, and my fit's just fine. But if your AC is too tall, you can use these zip ties with the screw hole in it, and then just run your screw in. Easier said than done with one hand. Just run your screw into the hole, say if it's sticking up. Mine fits, but I did get the lower profile. See, mine fits just fine, but if you're stuck up in the air like that and your screw doesn't fit, you can get these zip ties with the screws. They're ready to accept a screw. Again, make sure they're UV rated. You don't want this thing blowing off. It shouldn't, because there's several screws around, but make sure your back screws are in, not just your front screws. And if it's too tall, use these zip ties with screw holes. I don't really need them because mine fits, but maybe the hardest part about this job is getting a low profile AC unit. You can measure your height of your AC container here, your outdoor container, before you get started, but that's just another tip. Thought I'd mention it. See you.